Hello, is this thing on? Sorry, I've never recorded using a cassette player before. It's, probably the most expensive microphone I've ever used for one of these videos. Well, anyways, hi, hey, you got no idea who I am, but, I'm a really big fan of yours. I just wanted to call and let you know that, I've kind of been stealing your whole flow for, a while now. Like I said, I'm a huge fan, but I've got a YouTube channel, and I've kind of copied my whole visual style off of you, as well as this other guy from a galaxy far, far away, but that's not important. But I just want to call and say thank you. You know, you're a huge inspiration, and hey, I just hit 20,000 subscribers on that YouTube channel. So yeah, you know, that gives you something to smile about. So yeah, and sorry for, you know, never sending you any royalty checks or anything like that. To be honest, it really wouldn't look great for me if I had bank statements showing that I had sent money to an international mercenary group linked with several terrorist attacks and global incidents. Also, I really haven't played any of your games on the channel before. But hey, I figured you'd understand. You know, I'm kind of copying you the same way that you're a copy of Big Boss. And you did know that, right? Oh shoot, I don't know. I might have just spoiled that for you and anyone else who's potentially listening. Well, hey, I just wanted to give you one last heads up. About 30 years from now, Duran Duran is going to write a song. It's going to have nothing to do with your game, but people are going to act like it has everything to do with your game, which, ironically enough, when they do that, that's going to inadvertently make it all about your game and kind of go full circle with the whole, you know, can't trust anything, you don't know what's true or what isn't. Anyways, enjoy being the gaming equivalent of Ryan Gosling. Okay, bye!
Well, that was a lot of work for what is basically going to be a 5-second gag. Hey guys, it's CIUDad, and here we are, 20,000 subscribers. That is a crazy high number. And I can attribute 10,000 of those subscribers, that's right, half of that current total, to a single video I made at the last minute on a Sunday morning. So, just in case you didn't know, if you've ever seen this video right here, the Attack on Titan historical footage, little Dark Age edit, and statistically speaking, you've likely seen it because it is currently sitting at 10 million views, which is crazy to think about because, again, I edited this. I didn't do the animations and stuff. That was other people. The credits to them is in the description. But I edited this together. It's a funny story, actually. So it was not long after, like, I kind of started the YouTube thing, and I was still doing, like, my one video on Wednesday, one video on Sunday. I wanted to stick to that, even though I wasn't getting a lot of views at the time. And I had nothing to release that Sunday. So I woke up and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I have nothing to give to the people, and the people want something. Those people being like the, I don't know, 30 subscribers I had then. But two things were very popular at the time. One was the Attack on Titan historical footage, which is kind of like these people did animations and drawings of like the Attack on Titan world, but if it was like documented using the era appropriate technology that we see in the show, which is roughly around like late 1800s, early 1900s, kind of the turn of the 20th century. So kind of like that, those old, really grainy black, not even black and white, almost like black and very muted like yellows. That kind of old school filmography. So that was all over the place, and being an Attack on Titan fan, I saw it a lot. There's also a lot of those little Dark Age edits that people made all the time, which in retrospect, almost all of those were super cringy, but who cares? I enjoyed watching them. So, since I had made a couple of like edited videos like that before, because I think by that time I had made like the if Battlefront had a anime opening video, so I was like, okay, I'll put something together, I'll make it. So that morning I spent about 2 hours editing that like minute-and-a-half video. I posted it and I thought, okay, it's just gonna get like, you know, 30-50 views like all my other videos. It's not gonna be a big deal. What I had forgotten, however, is the fact that that particular Sunday was actually the day that Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2 was airing that night. Which is to say that that video hit the YouTube algorithm the same way that crack hit low-income housing in the 80s. Because, ooh boy, are the effects still felt today. So yeah, even now, I cannot go, most of the time it's every day, at the very least it's like every other day, I will still get people commenting on that video, and I'll still get notifications from it. And I find it so weird that that is my most popular video, technically speaking, because it has nothing to do with anything else I've ever made. It's not really gaming related. All I did was just edit stuff together. And so I kind of, when I say I'm not proud of it, I don't mean I'm ashamed of it or anything. Just like, that's not the piece of work that I'm looking at and I'm like, oh, that's a great representation of what I do. But yeah, it's a funny story, and for some reason I felt like talking about it. But enough about the artificial inflation of my subscriber numbers. Let's actually talk about that number, which is 20,000 subscribers. Look, people say this all the time, and now I actually get it. If any of y'all have done like a YouTube channel and hit a milestone like this, you'll understand that it really is unreal to think about, because that means 20,000 people enjoyed the content I put on YouTube enough to click a button to say, hey, I want to know what else this guy's gonna do. And like, really, subscriber numbers don't mean a whole lot, because that doesn't mean you're gonna get 20,000 views on your videos. But still, that is an absurd number. I never thought I was gonna hit that, and I gotta thank you guys for that. Whether or not you've been watching for a long time, for years, for months, if you've only been watching for a few videos, still, thank you. I really do mean that. It is humbling, which is ironic because you think it would be like very ego boosting, but it's humbling to think like, wow, these people enjoy the stuff I make. I gotta keep making good stuff for them. So that is why we are here today, to do a celebratory video. And while it's not the big flashy video that I maybe wanted to do, due to just my personal life, I don't have a lot of extra time, we're still gonna do something special. And that is a YouTuber Q&A. This is something that growing up, a lot of the YouTubers I watched, whenever they hit milestones, they would typically do like 1 or 2 Q&A videos. I always enjoyed it. I thought it'd be really easy to do, so I put a community post out there, asked you guys, hey, ask me any question within reason, and I will try and answer all of them. So that is what we are here to do today. So let's go ahead and get started with our first question here, which asks, CIUDad, Slave Leia cosplay when? Man, you guys just don't disappoint, do you? So what this comment is referring to, Alcaris is the one who commented this. He's referring to the last Lego Star Wars stream video I did, where Austin and I played through Complete Saga. And in that video, funnily, people in the chat were talking about, hey, when are we gonna get a CIUDad Slave Leia cosplay? And I looked it up. It's actually pretty affordable to get a Slave Leia cosplay if you wanted to get one, just saying. So I was like, you know what? If we can hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of this year, then yeah, I will do the Slave Leia cosplay video. The problem is that video came out in 2024, specifically Christmas Day 2024, which meant there was only a week of the year left, and that's not a lot of time, but I was also only maybe 700 subscribers away from that, so I thought it could be possible. Like, that'd be a good little incentive that maybe we could get people. But alas, the new year came and went. We did not hit that number until, I want to say back in February, is when we hit 20,000 subscribers. So no, I'm a man of my word. I said I was only going to do the Slave Leia if we hit it by the end of 2024, but that doesn't mean it's off the table yet. We'll make a new goal. It's 2025. The next arguably major subscriber goal would be 25,000. So if I hit 25,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and I know it's already March, but we still you got about what, like 9-10 months left out of the year. If we hit 25,000 subscribers, I will do the Slave Leia cosplay video. And I already know exactly what it's going to be like. And let me just say, there's a reason I haven't covered Star Wars Connect yet. Okay, let's go ahead and tackle the rest of these questions. And also, since we live in the short attention span era, you're not just going to see this beautiful face the whole time. I'm going to have some gameplay playing, and I'm going to stick myself up in the corner here, so that way you have something to watch while I talk about all these things. Boy, what a society we live in where this is almost borderline necessary. Okay, let's continue with the rest of Alcaris' questions. So you may have noticed with that Slave Leia one that there's the number 11 next to that question. That is because Alcaris here decided to ask 11 different questions in this comment. I'm going to try and burn through these really quickly because I do have a lot to get through and I've already wasted enough time. But I did say I'd answer every question. Alright, again, Alcaris says, I have a few questions. Number 1, what anime do you like? I noticed that you like Attack on Titan, but are there any others? Please don't make me out myself as way more of a loser than I already am. I like normal TV shows too. So yeah, you've probably picked up from some of my videos. I've watched several anime series before, including Attack on Titan. Duh. But there's a lot of other series out there that I watch. I haven't watched as much recently, but there's a few that I will go back to and return to, or I'll just kind of go try something new. Some top contenders, obviously Attack on Titan's up there. The 1996 Berserk, that was the Golden Age arc, that was pretty good. Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is phenomenal, and you should watch it even if you're not a big anime person. If you kind of like historical stuff and just really good stories, Vinland Saga, trust me. But no, it's not just the anime about the super serious world in a dire situation that I like. I still watch a lot of like comedic shows and rom-coms because, come on, I'm making videos on YouTube. Do you think I have someone? One of them is probably my all-time favorite anime, I'd say, is called Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. It's not for everyone. I find it to be very relatable to how I was like in middle school because it deals with kind of like whenever you're really cringy in middle school and then growing out of that. And then, of course, probably the show that I think is one of the funniest I've ever seen, at least as far as anime is concerned, is what's called Azumanga Daioh. This is another show I have a lot of nostalgia for because it deals with students and some of their teachers that are in high school. And I actually started watching this right before I started working as a teacher, so I kind of can't watch it without thinking of my first teaching gig, and I can't teach without thinking of that show. It's admittedly kind of strange. It's what would nowadays be considered like a brain rot or a lobotomy show. The pacing seems kind of really all over the place. The jokes are either really quick or they're like really slow and drawn out. And sometimes what feels like should be a short joke ends up being a long joke. But I know I like that one. If you want something to laugh at, check it out. Question 2. As a fellow Castlevania fan, what did you think of the second season of Nocturne and Nocturne as a whole so far? I've said before in my videos, I am not a big fan of the animated Castlevania series, the original one. Anyways, I think it's an objectively bad show that has some really good moments here and there. For example, like, Season 2 was fine, but everything with Isaac, like in Season 3 and 4, phenomenal, top tier. Everything else, not very good in my opinion. But Nocturne, being the follow-up show, the first season of it, whenever it first came out, I thought, okay, this is substantially better than what came before. And I think part of that was not having Warren Ellis as the main showrunner. And even though, yes, Warren Ellis has a lot of personal things that make him, like, you know, just not a good person, even removed from that, I hate his method of storytelling. So Nocturne Season 1 I thought was really good, and then Nocturne Season 2, which just came out recently, I watched it and I was genuinely surprised how much I enjoyed it. I think it is the best animated Castlevania we've ever gotten. I still think it kind of misses the mark with what Castlevania ought to be, but it's still really good, and I thought its characters, world building, villains, everything, even stuff that I didn't like in Season 1, ended up turning out really good in Season 2. I also like what they did with Alucard, because I couldn't stand Alucard's adaptation in the original show, and I thought when they brought him back here, they evolved his character, they made him into a much wiser, what I think Alucard should be, especially in the Symphony of the Night era, so good on them for that. 3. Will you do an analysis on the Shadow of the Colossus video game? No, I am not going to. At least not like a normal analysis, because I feel like that's a game, you play it, you form your own opinion on it, and I don't think I have anything substantial enough new to add to the conversation. What I am going to do, soon I'm going to be working on a potentially video series, at least one video, but maybe a whole series, talking about like some biblical elements and inspirations and allusions that are in video games. And obviously Shadow of the Colossus, whenever I played it recently, I saw a lot of stuff and I was like, oh, this seems like the thing, it's inspired from the Bible, let me talk about that. So hopefully it will end up getting its own dedicated video just on Shadow of the Colossus, but first I'm going to release kind of like the literary references in video games video I made a while back. I'll make one video when I talk about some stuff from several different games. So like that I would probably do that'd be the closest to an analysis of Shadow of the Colossus I'm going to do. Number 4, what is your opinion on your channel in 2024 with everything you covered, like the Battlefront 1 campaign, the 2 Sonic videos, all the way up to the end of last year completing LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga? And what do you think you had the most fun doing? Wow, that is a really good question, actually. I would say for the most part, probably the end of 2023, but then throughout 2024, the channel has come into its own, per se. Like, I've definitively figured out these are the type of videos I'm going to make for a majority of the time. Obviously, I used to do a lot more of just straight up Let's Play, but that, the Lord of the Rings Conquest video changed that because that was kind of like a quicker pace. I still play through the entire game, but I wasn't, I didn't play through the entirety of cutscenes, and obviously there wasn't much of a story there. And that's kind of what I've done before, so it's kind of like little videos. You don't have to watch the whole series, you could just watch one and get a fun enjoyment out of it. So for that, I think it ended up working out really well. The Battlefront 1 campaign, I actually had a lot of fun doing, and those videos were pretty successful. That was probably, to be honest, that was when my channel peaked this year. That was like the most highest consistent view counts I was getting, and honestly ever since then it's been on a downward slope, but that's what happens. The Sonic videos were fun. That was kind of a litmus test to see if there was enough interest to maybe play through the rest of Sonic Adventure 2, which I'm still open to, by the way. I'd also like to play this game, but you know. And of course the LEGO Star Wars streams, that was really cool, getting to do that with Austin, playing through an entire game with a friend, because the thing is, all of the friends who I play video games with live in drastically different places. We just can't play through a whole video series together anymore like we used to could. So figuring out that we could stream that and playing through the game, and obviously LEGO Star Wars is a childhood favorite of ours, and completing it in 1 year, so about a video every 2 months I think is what we ended up coming out to. That was really cool, and yeah, those also, just numbers wise, did very well, but I had a lot of fun making those and editing them, frankly. But yeah, I'd say 2024 was a really good year for the channel, and hopefully keep that momentum going. 5. Are you going to complete Metal Gear Solid? Yes, I'm going to complete it. I don't exactly know when. Do you like Devil May Cry, and what do you think of the upcoming Netflix anime if you do? I think I like Devil May Cry. I've played through... Technically, I've played all 5 games. The first one is my favorite, like the original Devil May Cry. I enjoyed the second one. The third one, I would have enjoyed it. It was just a little too hard, and I was having a hard time picking up the mechanics. But I could see like myself playing one of those games on the channel. As for the Netflix show, we just recently got a trailer for it. Hate that they spoiled that one particular character is going to be in it. Like, I knew he was going to be there, I just hope they kept it as a surprise. But yeah, same thing with, like, because, you know, Netflix shows, same showrunner as the Castlevania series. Adi Shankar is someone who I'm not a huge fan of. However, I gotta give him credit, he's really good at knowing his stuff. Like, he includes some really obscure parts of the game series he adapts. He did that with Castlevania, I think especially in Nocturne, and he's doing that even more so with Devil May Cry. And personally, I think the Devil May Cry world fits his aesthetic way better, so I think it's going to be really good. Will you do more Metal Gear videos on the channel like MGS 2 and 3? Yes, I would like to do some in the future. I'm not sure if I play through the whole games, but I'm definitely going to at least do a video on probably the opening tanker section of MGS 2, and probably a video on MGS 3 Delta whenever it comes out. Will you play MGS Delta, the remake of MGS, like, yeah, I just said that. Are you the 4th clone of Big Boss? No, I have no idea why you would think that. Glad I finally put these on. This eye patch was calling me like the Green Goblin mask sitting off to the side here. I'm gonna take it off before I don't know. Do you think LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga is better than the Skywalker Saga? Yes, with a caveat. That mainly being I just haven't finished the Skywalker Saga, so I don't think I can entirely give a fair comparison. Obviously, Complete Saga I grew up with. There's objectively less content in that game as opposed to Skywalker Saga, which is frankly brimming with content and I think is great. But little things like I don't really like the character tree upgrades, or the fact that that turns every character into basically being a reskin of like the same 6 characters. I don't like that you don't get custom characters. I do like the open world, the way it looks, the inclusion of as many, because it's like close to 1,000 characters, I want to say. That's all really good. It's just I haven't had time to beat it all, and I grew up with Complete Saga, so of course I'm going to say Skywalker Saga is not as good as Complete Saga. Congratulations on making it to 20k. Thanks. You were one of those 20k. You are 0.002% responsible. I can't do the math. I was an English teacher, not a math teacher. Okay, moving on from technically the first comment. Joshy Jones 77. What political affiliation are you? Haha, just kidding. I don't want you to die. Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm not one to really get in front of a camera and talk about my political opinion. Obviously, I've made a couple political jokes here and there, but I'm just going to say the same thing I tell most people. If you genuinely believe that a politician has your best interest at heart, you're the type of guy who believes the stripper actually loves you. But yeah, politics is something we have to deal with, but these are videos meant to just entertain you and try to distract you from your everyday life, so I'm not going to talk about politics on here. You shouldn't be getting your politics from a YouTuber anyways. Okay, but the actual questions he has, have you ever heard of the Lord of the Rings game based off the book for Xbox? And if so, would you consider playing it? I could be mistaken. I think if we're talking about the same one, I've actually got it right here. I don't know, this might be like flipped backwards because filming on a phone can be weird like that. This is what it actually looks like. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, obviously the very famous Lord of the Rings video games that I played growing up and I've actually covered on the channel is the EA movie tie-ins, Two Towers and Return of the King. Now those are two games and they cover all three of the movies. They're all really great. Most people say they're some of like one of the best movie tie-ins of all time, and I think they're definitely at least in the conversation. But you'll notice there's not one just called The Fellowship of the Ring, yet I just pulled out a game called The Fellowship of the Ring. That is because it's a funny story. So in the early 2000s, one company had the rights to make video games based off the Lord of the Rings movies, which was like EA, and then another group, I want to say Vivendi Studios, but I'm not 100% on that, some other company, had the rights to make Lord of the Rings games based off of the books. So this game, Fellowship of the Ring, is actually just adapting the book Fellowship of the Ring. It has nothing to do with the movies. I have never played it myself. I've always wanted to, but only recently picked up a physical copy for myself. And yes, I absolutely would consider playing it on the channel. In fact, right now if you go to my community tab, I have a poll up for what the next non-Star Wars game you want me to play is going to be. And I put that game on the list because I feel like I'm going to play it sooner or later, so y'all want to see me play it now? Let's do it. And his second question, thanks for being a clean YouTuber. Isn't really a question, but thanks. I can handle swearing, but as a Christian, it's nice not hearing the Lord's name misused. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for pointing that out. That is actually something I try to do. I don't know if I'd consider myself a clean YouTuber per se. I still say some rather out-of-pocket things from time to time. But I do make an effort to not swear and use curse words constantly. I'll use them from time to time, whether for comedic effect or if I'm just genuinely upset. And that's because in my personal life, when I was younger, I used to swear all the time, and it was not good. Especially whenever I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I grew up, and as much as the middle schoolers I taught probably would think that a cussing teacher is really cool, I didn't want to get pulled into the principal's office every single day. So I tried to train myself to swear less and just kind of not use curse words in everyday conversation. And I try to carry that over to my videos because, again, obviously a lot of people say if you cuss a lot it makes you sound unintelligent. I don't think I wouldn't entirely agree with that, but you can definitely get a lot more out of your vocabulary and come up with a lot more creative things to say if you're not using those words all the time. And yeah, obviously being a Christian as well, I try not to say oh my gosh, oh my God is what most people say. Again, that's one of those, even without the cussing thing, I always say oh my gosh, because don't take the Lord's name in vain. Is it an unforgivable sin? No, you can say that and still be a Christian. It's just, you really probably shouldn't. Technically, even me saying, oh my Lord, is taking the Lord's name in vain to some extent. But I still say that all the time. But yeah, no, thank you. I do try to be slightly more clean than the average YouTuber. Oh, and Joshy has another question. He left a second comment. I'll go over it real quick. If you could have a lightsaber color, what color would you choose, why, and what style of lightsaber? Also, would you be dark side or light side? The classic Star Wars fans question. What color would I want? Purple is one I've always been really partial to, but so is everyone. Obviously some of my favorite characters like Revan. Mace Windu's also really cool, he uses purple. And obviously that light and dark dichotomy coming together in purple. So purple would be one, but then a really light blue, kind of a cyan light blue. It's the saber color you get in the Cal Kestis games. I kind of like that because I like the normal green and blue, but I like them when they're a little bit different. So like that lighter blue would probably be a second choice. As for why, I think the colors are neat. There's lore reasons for the lightsaber colors, but I also, at the end of the day, I just like those colors. What style of lightsaber would you want to have? That's an interesting one. If I had to pick, probably like one of those curved handles, like what Count Dooku has, oddly enough. My roommate in college actually had like one of those replica lightsabers of Count Dooku with the curved handle, and obviously we played around with them a lot and like did some photo shoots and stuff. And whenever I used it, I found, obviously it's supposed to be like a sword file fencing style weapon, but I found even if you don't use it that way, that extra curve, you get a lot more leverage whenever you swing it in a lot of different ways. So if I had to use a lightsaber as a weapon, I feel like I'd have a lot of control over like a curved tail. So yeah, Dooku has it, obviously Ventress has it. I think, if I'm not it's been a while since I've read the books, I think Darth Bane also had a curved lightsaber like that. Also, would you be dark side or light side? It's kind of generic, but yeah, I'd be light side. I'd be a Jedi all the way. And I talked about it before in the Christian Star Wars video I made last year. Like, the Jedi Order is a great example of like a religious order that is just super dogmatic and pharisaical and kind of has lost the main driving force for what their order ought to be. And while that is true, that doesn't change the fact that the light side of the Force is objectively the right one. So, yeah. Okay, Edgy Boy. Edgy Boy is the one who left this comment, and his profile picture is Edgeworth from Phoenix Wright. I really need to go back and play more of the Phoenix Wright games. And he says, okay, here's two. One serious and one not so serious. If you met Ewan McGregor, would you try your Obi-Wan impression in front of him? And two, what is your all-time favorite Star Wars game and why? For the Ewan McGregor thing, frankly, like, I want to say I'm an Ewan McGregor fan. Realistically, I've only ever really seen him in Star Wars. I've seen a couple of his other movies, but I'm a big fan of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So if I ever met him in person, I'd frankly be so starstruck. I'd probably be overwhelmed, and I couldn't even think of doing the Obi-Wan impression for him. Also, technically, that is an impression of someone else doing an Obi-Wan impression. So it's an impression of an impression, not directly an Obi-Wan impression. Yeah, I don't know. If the circumstances were right, I would probably try it on him and say, hey, what do you think of this? And what is your all-time favorite Star Wars game and why? Again, probably a very basic answer for a lot of people, but Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original 2005 version. Now, to be perfectly honest, to be perfectly blunt and candid, and this is just the reality, there are objectively better Star Wars video games out there, but for me and so many other people, that's just the Star Wars experience. Obviously, most people say it recreates the feeling of being in a large-scale Star Wars battle, and I agree with that, especially you got a stellar campaign that makes you feel like a member of the 501st. You've got Galactic Conquest, where you are pretty much like this single band of whatever faction you choose going around conquering the galaxy. It feels like a large-scale campaign. And then even just the instant action. And what I would always like to do is like I'd play instant action and I'd manipulate the settings to where it'd be like the maximum number of reinforcements. So I'd play like a 45-minute match where I had to kill 900 guys in order to win the battle. And yeah, it just, again, you feel like you're a boots-on-the-ground soldier, you feel like you're a clone trooper, you feel like you're a battle droid, you feel like you're a stormtrooper, you feel like you're a rebel soldier. And that's just something a lot of people want in a Star Wars game. So yeah, for me, that's my favorite. It is also one of the first video games I ever played. I think it and Lego Star Wars, the video game, the first one that only had the first 3 episodes. If I'm not mistaken, those were the first 2 games I ever owned. Solo Jackson asked, what game consoles do you have, current to legacy? Obviously my Xbox Series X is probably my main console that I play most of my games on. Growing up, I had an original Xbox, that was the first console I ever had, and that's why I stick with, I don't care Xbox or PlayStation, play whichever one you like, whichever one has your friends on it and you can most easily play with them. Then after that we had a Wii, and obviously I had like a Nintendo DS, a Game Boy, 3DS growing up at different points in my life. We got an Xbox 360. A funny story with that one. My dad was a youth pastor, and one day he showed my brother and I, he said, hey, I bought this Xbox 360. Now this is supposed to be for the youth group to play with, so it's not technically ours. But we're gonna keep it at the house, and it's basically you guys. And like my brother still owns that 360 console. And then other than that, obviously Xbox One. Now I got the Series X. One of my best friends from high school gave me his PlayStation 3 a few years ago, and that's what I've been playing a lot of videos on recently. And I also got a Nintendo Switch because I like Nintendo games. Why did you want to start a YouTube channel? There it is, I knew this was going to come up. In fact, I think it might come up a couple times, so I'm just going to tell a little bit now and maybe do some more later. Why did I want to start a YouTube channel? Because I wanted to. But no, in all seriousness, growing up I watched a lot of YouTubers. Sugar Conroy was probably the YouTuber I watched the most. It was the first ever YouTuber I watched. I really loved the way he made videos. One of my friends watched him too, and then we kind of connected over watching other people's YouTube videos. And growing up, I just thought that I would love to do that, not as a full-time job, but just as a hobby, because I think it'd be fun and it would just be enjoyable. I didn't end up doing it until, well, I don't want to say later in life, I'm still very young. But it wasn't really until like my senior year of college when I decided, yeah, I'm gonna do the YouTube thing. What good advice have you learned in your life? Oh, wow, okay. That's a really good question, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to answer it perfectly. Well, here's a piece of advice that my parents gave to me when I was a little bit older and that I genuinely see a lot of value in. That being, if someone ever criticizes you, even if they're like overreacting and you know what they're criticizing you for is not 100% true, be critical of their criticism. If someone has a problem with you or they don't like the way you do something, even if they're blowing it out of proportion and not exactly presenting it in a fully honest manner, there might still be something to what they say. So just think about, if someone says they got a problem with you, really think about it and be willing to say, maybe there is some things about myself I could fix. What random fact do you know that you think others might not know? Okay, I got one for you. So do you know the Amazon River? You know that very famous river running through South America, like in the middle of the jungle, dense rainforest, very dangerous. You ever think about how, man, whoever must have mapped that out had to be really like brave and crazy to do that? Well, he was, because a majority of that river was actually mapped out by President Theodore Roosevelt. And no, not like he sent an expedition force down there. He was the expedition force. Yeah, it was in, I can't remember the exact year, early 1900s, whenever Theodore Roosevelt lost his third term at presidency, when he was going to go in as an independent party. The famous story where he got shot in the chest and still gave the speech. Somehow he lost that election, and to Woodrow Wilson of all people. But something that Theodore Roosevelt was known to do is after like some really difficult or bad thing happened in his life, he would physically push himself to try and, that was his way of getting over it. So whenever he lost the third bid of presidency, he decided that he was going to go down to South America and with his son Kermit and like 100 other people and try and map out the Amazon River, or finish mapping it out. There was still like a majority of the river was unexplored. He almost died in the process, big surprise, but yeah, he did it. I don't know if I can't remember if he finished mapping it. It was like about 10 years ago whenever I read the book that was about this. But Kansas Millard River of Doubt, read that if you are like if you enjoy history and you think that story sounds cool. All right, next comment, Repeat4. Have you ever played the Half-Life series? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? I've played about halfway through Half-Life 2. I really enjoyed it. I no longer have my copy of the orange box, which is how I played it. But I thought it was really cool. It wasn't like, I wouldn't say it's like my favorite game or anything, but I really liked it. And I did recently install the PS2 version of Half-Life 1 onto my PS3 to try and play it that way. Just, I don't have a good, my laptop and gaming setup for like a computer is not good. I can't play games on Steam, just trust me on this. I will say I think the Half-Life series, as well as most games made by Valve, very incredibly influential. Definitely games that need to be remembered and still hold up to this day. His second question, have you considered doing a playthrough in the same vein or style as your DDLC one again? That was one of my personal favorites. A lot of people, for some reason, that the Doki Doki videos were like their favorite or the first ones they started watching with To answer your question, assuming we're on the same page whenever you say that style or vein of video, yes. I might play back through Doki Doki Literature Club again one day if I found another person who hadn't played it. But like that style of video where it's like me and some other people kind of playing through a game, very little edits, kind of just purely us playing the game. Obviously the Doki Doki videos, I would argue the Resident Evil 4 videos we made with Austin and Javon, the Colonel Sanders dating simulator, yes, that's a thing, yes, I've made videos on it. And then the other series that I think is in that same vein or style would be the Batman Telltale series. That is actually a video series that I have actively tried to record more of recently. But again, me and Austin and Marcus all live in very different places, and it's hard to get all of us together. And then when we are together, we don't always want to record a video. We're friends, we just want to hang out. So yes, there will be more videos in that style, if that's what you mean by that style of video. But I mean, I could see myself playing Doki Doki again, and I always thought there was going to be some sort of sequel to that game, but it hasn't come out like, what, 15 years later, so yeah. Alright, Frozen Claw 23 asked, favorite Decepticon, since we know Warpath holds the top spot for the Autobots. Warpath, I don't know anything about Warpath other than he's just the blam guy who goes in guns blazing, but I like him. Favorite Decepticon, to limit myself, I'm gonna say it can't be any of the big three or I guess big four Decepticons, so no Megatron, Soundwave, Starscream, or Shockwave. I want to be more creative than that. Maybe, and I talked about this in that recent Transformers video, maybe Vortex. He was one of the Combaticons. He was like a helicopter. I just like helicopters. I think they're cool. I wanted to get a helicopter pilot's license. Probably still will one day. So maybe him. If not him, however, I'd probably say, what's his name? Is it Darkwing? Or, the character from Transformers Prime, he was the Decepticon. It was a model reuse of a one-off villain in Season 1. And then his brother showed up and then became like a mainstay on the show. I want to say Darkwing, but I'm not exact. I feel like that might not be his name. But this character right here, I thought he was really good. I liked that he was a bit more honorable. He alone, I feel like, added so much more depth to the Autobots Decepticon conflict that I feel like is supposed to be there. It doesn't always show up there, but yeah, him or Vortex. He also asked, what lightsaber style would you want to train in if you had the opportunity, and what color saber would you want? Okay, real talk, it's been a long time since I've studied the different lightsaber styles. The only ones I can really remember, I know Qui-Gon's was, I think, Style 1, but I can't remember the name of it. Other than that, I know Vapad, which I think was Mace Windu's. That's like the dark side, kind of embracing that one. And then Soresu was Obi-Wan's, which is a much more defensive style. A lot of like the spinning and stuff he does. Practically, I think Soresu would be the best one just because you've got the ultimate defense, and then pair it with like a good attacking style. But honestly, my style of fighting tends to be a lot more aggressive, mainly because I used to be a boxer. So I can't remember any of the styles off the top of my head, but Soresu would probably be, I would want to pocket Soresu just so I could, defend myself in any situation. Favorite Star Wars droid model? Easy, the HK series, the HK Assassin droids from the KOTOR games. Not only is HK-47 a cool droid, but that's just a really dope design. Either that, maybe the Assassin droids. Autobot or Decepticon? Again, Autobot. I'm gonna be honest, this could be seen as boring. In most fictional worlds, if there's like a good and bad guy force, while I think the bad guys tend to be a lot more interesting, assuming they're written well, if I was personally in those situations, almost 9 times out of 10, I'm picking the good guy side. Just because traditionally those are the values that line up with what I personally believe. Like the Jedi, I would be a Jedi. The Autobots, I would be an Autobot. Scout819 asks, and the most important question, have you heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Well, even though I just said I would want to be a Jedi, that's not a story the Jedi would tell you now, is it? Question 2, between the 4 Battlefront games, what's your favorite starfighter you could pilot, and what's your least favorite? Actually, there's 6 Battlefront games. I actually misread this question at first. First I thought you were asking which one was my favorite, but no, that's actually pretty good. What's my favorite starfighter you could pilot and least favorite? The ARC 170 and the V-Wing is always my go-to in Battlefront 2, and just kind of starfighters in general. However, I think the Battle Droid dropship, or the Battle Droid gunship, looks really cool. That's one of my favorite, one I think the more slept on starfighter designs in Star Wars. However, in Battlefront 1, the droid dropship is incredibly hard to handle and to fly around with. Okay, I might not be pronouncing this right. FCAS, you see it on screen here. Love your content. You play a lot of games I loved growing up. So happy I found your channel. Yeah, I found I like playing kind of older, very nostalgia-heavy games. People seem to like that. Question, what made you want to start doing YouTube? So I talked about it a little bit before. To continue with that story just a bit, like I said, when I was in college, I thought, oh, maybe when I get to college I'll have time to do YouTube. Never ended up doing it because I was heavily invested in, like, obviously classes, and our school had a student-run theater program that I ended up becoming in charge of for a short amount of time. I was like the president of that club. That took up a lot of my time because I had to, pretty much we had to put on one show a semester, and I was responsible for either directing or finding a director and training the director, and then I had to kind of leave it in their hands, but I still had to kind of have a supervisory role. And of course I acted in them from time to time. I like acting. Big shocker, the guy making YouTube videos. I like being an entertainer. But at the end of my junior year and the beginning of my senior year, I kind of had a falling out with some people in that group. I ended up not doing anything else with the theater the rest of the time I was in college. So that left me with a lot of open space and a real strong desire to do some sort of entertainment. And yeah, it just kind of ended up working out. Near the end of the summer, I made the first video I ever did, at least as far as this YouTube channel is concerned, which is the Skyrim, but it's destroyed by mods. That was originally just kind of going to be a personal video that I sent to some of my friends because I thought it would be funny to do. I had just gotten like a video editing software I used for memes, and I thought, well, let me try making a video. I enjoyed it, I posted it. I think it got like 30 or 50 views at the time, which is definitely more than the amount of people I sent it out to. So some people watched it, and I just ended up, I was like, you know what, I could see myself doing this. Let's try. And I didn't have good equipment. Like, I was using the built-in DVR on my Xbox One to record almost all of my videos for the first 2 years. I'll say this, if anyone wants to get into YouTube, just go find a way to do it, even if it's cheap, if it's not whatever's the most efficient way for you to do it now. You don't have to spend a lot of money, just be passionate about it. Understand it's not gonna work out for a while, and it's a very random process, but please go for it. But so yeah, so I like being kind of an entertaining guy, and this is a great way to make entertaining videos. Mario asks, if you could meet Obi-Wan Kenobi, what would you ask him? I'm not sure. Okay, but really, I don't know what I would ask him. Actually, I think I might know what I'd ask him. This is Obi-Wan the character, not Ewan McGregor the actor. I probably would ask him, as much as I love Obi-Wan, I think he had one of his biggest flaws is kind of pawning off all the responsibility onto Luke Skywalker. Like, Obi-Wan had the chance to kill Anakin multiple times, or kill Vader multiple times, and he didn't do it. Probably, honestly, for selfish. Like, I understand why he left Anakin alive at the end of the Battle of Mustafar. That's still, even though I understand it, and I would probably do the same thing in his situation, that doesn't really excuse, like, why that kind of. Obviously, after that, Vader continues to live, and then whenever Luke Skywalker's of age, Obi-Wan's kind of a little bit of a manipulative jerk to try and get Luke to go and kill his father. So I probably would ask him why. Why did you do that? And I think he'd give a very honest and very wise response to that. I probably would know what it is, but still, that's probably what I'd ask him. Chaos Knight says, fun fact, in Lord of the Rings Conquest for Legolas, if this isn't even a question, hold on. In Lord of the Rings Conquest for Legolas, if you hold square for 6 to 7 seconds, then press X, Legolas does shield boarding. Funniest crap ever running over people with it. For 360, it's hold X for 6 to 7 seconds, press A. Is that real? Okay, so I went ahead and jumped into the game because I just have to find out if this is true or not. Okay, so the instructions, play as Legolas, hold square for 6 to 7 seconds, and then press X. Okay. I'm holding it. Oh, okay, did y'all see that? I kind of rushed forward. Okay, here comes another wave of enemies. Okay, yeah, so you can like rush forward. Holy crap, that carries you far. And yeah, you can see the shield. Oh, you have some control over it too. Okay. You know, that's really neat actually. I had no idea that was something you could do. Boy, I really wish I'd known about that like a year ago whenever I actually played through this game. And yeah, if you want to watch my full playthrough of this, I'll link a video in the description. Okay, interesting question by Sunny Darko here. He says, I know you've probably answered this before, but what state or region do you live in? I'm moving across the country soon, and I am interested in learning more about new places. Yeah, Sonny, why don't I go ahead and dox myself in front of all of you guys? No, I actually am going to answer the question. So, I think I've said it before, I live in the great state of South Carolina, which as a history teacher is awesome because South Carolina is historically known for... Well, it's not really important what we're known for now, is it? No, but of course, South Carolina is probably most famously known in our country as being the state that first seceded from the Union and starting the Civil War. You know, great thing for your state to be known for. So yeah, because of that, there's obviously a ton of historical stuff down here related to that war. But there's also other historical things, like obviously, we got Francis Marion with the Revolutionary War, being one of the earliest colonies. Obviously, Charleston is where like Blackbeard is from. There's a lot of ghost stories around the city of Charleston. And I've actually gotten to see some pretty interesting historical artifacts here. So for one of my college classes, I can't remember like the proper term for the building. It might have just been like the South Carolina Hall of Records, but basically in the state capital, Columbia, there's a building that has like all these famous, kind of keeps a record of all these famous historical documents, historical accounts. And for one of my classes, we went there and I saw two very interesting pieces of history. One of them, if I'm not mistaken, it was a replica of a Revolutionary War document. I want to say it was South Carolina's copy of like the Declaration of Independence, because obviously that went out to all the different states whenever we seceded from Britain. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Honestly, I don't remember. I think it was some sort of Revolutionary War document, but the other one was actually the original piece of paper. That was basically South Carolina's letter of secession. So it was the document that the South Carolina leadership sent off to Washington, D.C. to basically declare their independence from the rest of the United States, starting the Civil War. So again, while I disagree with basically every single thing on that document, that is crazy to get to say that I have seen it in person, and like the original at that. But yeah, so I live in South Carolina, and currently I used to live kind of more inland around that Columbia area. Now I live on the coast in a beach city, and I love it because I love the beach. Schwab Mob Watches asks, not so good with on-the-fly thinking of questions, but Fable Trilogy series one day? Mass Effect Legendary or the OG 360 era trilogy? And then what is your favorite video series to make for the channel? That's all I can think of at the moment. So for both Fable and Mass Effect, funnily enough, those have both been recommended to me by a friend of mine who likes both of them and said, hey, you should check it out and play it, especially Mass Effect. And so I actually ended up buying the Mass Effect Legendary collection whenever it came out. It was on sale one day, and I was like, sure, I'll pick it up. It seemed like it would be a game like right up my alley. The same people who made KOTOR, it's sci-fi setting. It's basically just like another very Star Wars-esque series at face value. But when I started playing it, I wouldn't say I disliked it. I just had a hard time getting into it. And at the time, that was whenever I first started teaching. I was very busy. I only had so much free time during the day. And so whenever I got back home at night, and sometimes it'd be late at night when I got home, if I was going to play a video game, I wanted it to be something kind of quick and easy. And obviously Mass Effect and any sort of RPG is kind of a big time sink. So I had a hard time getting into it. And because of that and the fact that I don't really play super long games on the channel, the KOTOR playthrough is kind of the first time I'm doing anything like that. Probably not. I'm probably not going to do a Fable trilogy or Mass Effect videos on the channel. Not to say they're not good games, that's just I'm not really interested in playing them, I'm not really interested in playing them for the channel. Alright, Chico Olaris asks, what do you like about the Metal Gear series? Plus, what is your favorite dish? You know, it's funny because, again, for both being such a big, like, Metal Gear Solid is one of my favorite video game franchises. Obviously, my channel icon is like a drawing of Big Boss, and yet I've only made a handful of Metal Gear videos to date. But as for what's my favorite thing about that series and franchise, honestly, even though I think a lot of people might see this as a bad thing, I really like how overly complex the games are. Like, not the gameplay themselves. I like the gameplay just because even though I'm not good at it, I enjoy stealth in video games. And the Metal Gear franchise, that's just, you know, it's all about stealth and sneaking around, and that's the type of games I enjoy. But, like, the stories are so detailed and intricate, and especially, like, as the series went on, they kind of got, like, overly detailed, sometimes to its detriment. Other times, I think that really sold the message of the game. Like, if I had to pick a favorite game, probably it'd be Phantom Pain. Obviously the gameplay is the smoothest and all. It's not really like the rest of the Metal Gear series, but like which that game has a lot of literary influence, namely things like 1984, where like the fact that you don't know what's going on in the world around you, you don't know what to trust, and the fact that there's so many loose threads in that game, things that don't make sense. And you could just endlessly speculate about it. You don't know what's true, what's not, and that's kind of the point of the game. And I don't know, something about that just really resonates with me. It really makes you think, be critical, and I enjoy that. As for your second question, what is my favorite dish, my favorite food to eat? Obviously, in the LEGO Star Wars videos, I specifically mentioned double bacon cheeseburgers, which is definitely up there. But probably like my favorite dish to eat. My family makes a really good, my mom specifically, she makes a really good like pot roast, beef roast, that and some potatoes, really good. That's probably my favorite dish. Alright, Kyle Swayze asks, would you be willing to have a full lobby of fans in a Battlefront 2 server and just do random games like Ewok Hunt or Blast? Also, what is your favorite character of all time amongst any media? Okay, that second question's gonna take some time to think about. As for the full lobby of fans of Battlefront 2, so I actually recently, as I'm recording this, last night was actually the first time I did this, but I held a live stream where fans could join in and we played the games together. We did the original, well, not the original Battlefront, but Battlefront 2015. And Kyle, it seems like you're specifically referencing Battlefront 2 2017, since you're talking about Ewok Hunt and Blast. So since there's not private games per se in that Battlefront 2, it might be a little bit harder to pull off as far as like it being a lobby strictly of fans. But obviously, probably I could get people to like join an in-game party, and then we load in and then we play it that way. So yeah, I definitely think Battlefront 2 is definitely a possibility of something we play, along with probably games like the Halos, both the Master Chief Collection and probably something in Infinite. And I'm trying to figure out some other games, namely like cross-platform things. That's the hardest part, is since I have an Xbox, a lot of games have to be like, I have to own them on Xbox, and only people who own it on Xbox can play it with me. But who is your favorite character of all time amongst any media? Do you know how much? Okay, so this is a hard question because obviously I've watched a ton of movies, I've read a ton of books, I've played a ton of video games, I've seen a bunch of plays. I've consumed so much media, it's probably a problem, honestly. But to pick like an all-time favorite character, I really don't know if I could, because I like different characters for different reasons. However, probably some top contenders would have to be, well, probably some Star Wars character, probably Admiral Thrawn or Obi-Wan Kenobi. I want to say Revan, but Revan's kind of built to be a blank slate, so it's kind of unfair to say he's my favorite character because his character is what you make him. Yes, there is technically a canon Revan, but I want to try and forget what the Old Republic MMO tried to do to that character. Probably another one, this is kind of a newer character I've learned to really enjoy. There's a book series I'm reading called The Gray Man. It's a very like kind of spy, military, CIA type thriller type of thing, like a James Patterson or a Dave Balducci would write. Kind of like a Jack Reacher type character. He's a little bit different. I don't normally read those types of books, but I picked this one up and I actually really enjoyed it. And the main guy, the Gray Man, Court Gentry, he's probably starting to get up there as one of my favorite characters. Also Kelsier from the Mistborn books. I haven't read a lot of Brandon Sanderson, but I like Kelsier. And in fact, you know what, that earlier question about who would be insufferable to deal with in real life would probably be him. Stop Motion Guy asks, if you could make a game based around a niche historical topic, what would that topic be and what kind of game would it be like? Ooh, that's a good one. It's hard to say because like I can think of a cool historical niche topic, but I can't really think of what type of gameplay I'd have with it. I can't, as much as I play video games, I have a hard time like coming up with a good video game design idea. But for what that niche historical topic would be, first off, I already mentioned the Theodore Roosevelt Amazon River thing. That could be a fun game. Maybe something kind of like the Far Cry games, like maybe like a mix of like Far Cry 2, maybe like a Far Cry Primal, I don't know, something kind of like that where it's kind of open world and you gotta scrounge for materials, but like a very realistic, dangerous sandbox. Another one, as far as a niche historical topic, how many of you guys know about the Library of Alexandria? I think it's a relatively well-known historical thing, but I've run into people who've never heard of it. Basically, several thousand years ago, there's a library in Alexandria, Egypt, which ended up burning down. And to this day, like, we don't know what kind of knowledge we lost when the library burned down. So me and my brother just find that historical event very fascinating, just to kind of speculate and think, did we lose anything, that like any technology that we don't have nowadays? What would be the butterfly effect off of that? Would there be like greater technology now? Would there be more knowledge? Did we lose nothing of consequence? So yeah, probably maybe some sort of game based around that, but I don't know what the genre would be. For some reason, I'm thinking kind of like a point and click adventure, but I don't really like a lot of point and click games, but that seems appropriate. Something like an indie game. Alright, Edgeboy has another question. Okay, I've thought up another one. Did you ever play the Lord of the Rings The Third Age game? And if so, would you do a playthrough of it on hard difficulty? Heck no. So if you're not sure what he's referring to, there was a Lord of the Rings game called The Third Age. It came out maybe circa 2003, 2004, that kind of era, for Xbox, PS2. I don't think it was on GameCube. But basically what that game was is it's Final Fantasy X, but with a Lord of the Rings coat of paint on it, inspired by the movies. So it's basically like a JRPG of the Lord of the Rings, except you're playing with kind of knockoff characters. Like there's a Gondorian ranger, and there's an elf, and there's a dwarf, but it's not... It's basically you make a party that ends up being the Fellowship, but it's not the Fellowship, and they're like 5 miles behind the Fellowship coming along. It's a really funny story setup, I think. Especially whenever the party ends up fighting the Balrog with Gandalf on the bridge, which, by the way, that bridge is like canonically supposed to be so thin only one person can stand on it. And when you play the game, it's like 5 people all lined up on this bridge that should be way smaller. So would I do a playthrough of it? I would make a single video on the game. I wouldn't do the whole thing because it's like a 40-hour game. And heck no, I'm not playing it on hard difficulty. I was struggling enough on normal difficulty. So yeah, but I have played it before. It's a very good game. Cole James asks, is it your opinion that Seattle should have run the ball? What is this, a sports question? I make videos on Star Wars video games. You think I can weigh in on any sort of sports-related matter? Hold on, I gotta look this up. This is related to the Super Bowl, right? No, that's right. It was the Eagles and the Chiefs who played the Super Bowl. Who's Seattle? I'm assuming this is a football thing. So I'm not a big sports person, which is funny because my family is all big sports people, and my hometown is like a huge sports town. In fact, someone who used to play for the New York Yankees grew up there. But is it my opinion that Seattle should have run the ball? I don't know. Did they lose the game is what I would ask. If they lost the game, then if they had run the ball, maybe it could have been different. So yeah, they could have run the ball, could have gotten a different outcome. So yeah, we'll say yes. Oh, and here's another sports-related one by Roll Tide, who asks, would you rather fight a bloodlusted Conor McGregor for 10 minutes or a bloodlusted gorilla for 1 minute? I know I said earlier I used to box. I don't want to be in either of these situations. A bloodlusted Conor McGregor for 10 minutes? No. Look, I don't think I could beat either of these in a fight. Conor McGregor is just a powerhouse and a beast of a boxer. And a bloodlusted gorilla? Heck no. I would pick the gorilla, however, only because it says I have to survive it or fight it for a minute. And obviously a minute is shorter than 10 minutes. Quite a bit shorter. I think I can more reasonably survive 1 minute, but I'm not beating either of these in a fight. Alright, Chester and Luke, I guess this is technically two people. They ask, will you continue your KOTOR series? Yes, in fact it starts back this week. So now that I've completed the Obi-Wan game, this past week I did kind of like a one-off video just because I do like to do kind of like random one-off games from time to time. And typically in between playthroughs is the best time to put those out. However, starting this Wednesday, we are going to go back to playing through KOTOR. Again, I'm probably going to just be playing through one planet at a time. So like, obviously I played through all of Terrace, and then when I beat Terrace, I took a break for a while, and then I went to Obi-Wan. Now I'm going to play through Dantooine. I might go a little bit farther than Dantooine because Dantooine's really short. But then after that, I'll probably take a break, play another game, another Star Wars game, and then come back to KOTOR. We are going to beat it. That's probably going to take all year, to be honest. But I do intend to keep playing that game and releasing videos on it, and they start back soon. Oh gosh. So Austin, who you might know from many of my other videos, has left several different questions. I don't think I can answer all of them because frankly they are so creative and out there that I need to really think about them. Okay, some questions for you to consider using. What would be the worst buy one get one free sale of all time? I don't know, man. I guess a coffin. Technically you only need one, but I guess there's a situation where two could be helpful. What would be the absolute worst name you could give your child? I think the worst name I could think of would be like if you named your kid after a city in Texas, maybe like the capital of Texas or something. What sport would be funniest to add a mandatory amount of alcohol to? That's easy, tennis. As much as those tennis players are running back and forth, that would be so much more entertaining if they were all liquored up while doing so. You're a mad scientist. What scientific experiment would you run if money and ethics weren't an issue? Ooh, man, I really don't know. You know what scientific experiment does kind of intrigue me? So all throughout history, there's been an odd trend of like, especially like in the medieval times, rulers and leaders would like take two children and isolate them, like completely cut them off from the rest of society to try and see them grow, and then try to see what language they would speak, because they would consider that language they speak to be Adamic, which is like what is considered by some people the first language. Adamic is what like Adam and Eve spoke. Adamic. So yeah, that's a horrible experiment, by the way, isolating children from other people. But like, you know, I'd be curious to see what language they would come up with. Oh, here's that question I was talking about. What fictional character is amazing in their book, show, movie would be insufferable to deal with them in mundane, everyday situations? It'd probably Kelsey or from Mistborn. What's the most ridiculous fact you know? Okay, so did you know that honey is actually classified as a raw meat according to the FDA? What is something that everyone looks stupid doing? Making videos on YouTube. Next. What kind of secret society would you like to start? I don't know, probably some sort of like secret archaeology society, something kind of like if they're like a council of Indiana Jones or something, and like we meet and we go out and we explore the world and then we come back and talk about these treasures we find, or we try to like fund expeditions to like find the Ark, not only like the Ark of the Covenant, but like Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat, which is something I want to do before I die, is like go up that mountain. What inanimate object do you wish you could eliminate from existence? Physical copies of Bloodborne. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Who would win in a three-way fight, a Metal Gear, a Transformer, or a Gundam? Okay, so again, like, I know Metal Gear, I'm starting to know Transformers. I don't really know Gundam all that well. I've never watched Gundam. I did play a little bit of a Gundam video game one time. Realistically, I probably would say a Transformer would win that fight because a Metal Gear and a Gundam are incredible machines, but they need to be piloted by people, and obviously there's some room for error there, whereas a Transformer is a person. It's an individual in and of itself. So I think it would have the edge just of being a sentient creation instead of a like a purely a machine. So probably a Transformer. Is it true that Azumanga Daioh is the apex of all literary works? Yes, Sata Andagi indeed, Osaka. Now I know this wasn't the question, however, realistically, if I had to pick what I think a book is like the apex of literary works, it would probably be Frankenstein. And then his final question, if you could be a cryptid, which one would you be and why? So actually the cryptid I would want to be is a relatively unknown cryptid, but it's like a very local thing to where I live. We here in South Carolina, we don't have like a generic Bigfoot or something like that. No, we have the Lee County Lizard Man. It's exactly what it says on the box. It's a lizard man who lives in Lee County, right outside of Bishopville. In fact, you can actually find an imprint of his foot, like a track he left behind in the South Carolina Museum of Cotton, which, yes, that exists. Yes, it's as bad as you think it is. But yeah, that was always kind of like the local legend I knew growing up. So yeah, the Lee County Lizard Man if I had to pick one because, you know, it's a giant lizard man. Oh, I missed a bonus question from Roll Tide, the one who asked me about if I wanted to get killed by Conor McGregor or a gorilla. He says, what do you think is the largest animal that you could beat in a fight? I don't know. Again, like I have some fighting experience, so I feel like I could put up a slightly better fight than the average person. But as far as the largest animal I think I could beat, I don't know, man, because animals are like they're beasts. Like, I mean, of course they're animals, but but what I mean is like they're all ridiculously strong. I mean, I feel like I could take out like something like a wild boar or a hog. If I was in a straight up fight. Obviously I'd never want to find myself in that situation, but like some of the guys I've been hunting with have gone out of their way to teach me like how you deal with like a charging animal, namely boars, because we have a lot of wild pigs in South Carolina. So maybe that, or maybe something kind of like a monkey on the smaller end of the spectrum. Like even a chimpanzee, I think I'd have a hard time fighting. I could beat it though, but I would not look pretty coming out of that fight. And our final question today is from Darth Maul 1396. Hey man, no hard feelings about the plasma reactor and all that, okay? All right, Darth Maul says, "Hello, CIUDad." Hello, Darth Maul. Are you an actual dad? I mean, no, I don't think so. Let me just put, I've never done anything that would result in me becoming a dad. I'll put it that way. I do regularly donate like blood and platelets, so presumably they have enough DNA of me out there to make a clone, but like I haven't donated anything else that would result in them more easily creating a child of me. I'll just put it that way. However, to build off of that, I guess I'll kind of explain like where the CIUDad name comes from. So why I'm called CIUDad. You might know the word CIUDad is actually the Spanish word for city. And if you couldn't tell by my sharp blue eyes, my bright blonde hair, and my pale complexion, I am Hispanic. No, of course, here's actually why. So the place I went to college actually is abbreviated as CIU. We called it CIU. So you know how like in college or in like a group of people, sometimes you'll have like the mom of the group or the dad of the group. So I was largely considered the dad of most of the groups I was in. So out of that, I became like the dad of CIU, the CIUDad. And then because that's also the aforementioned a pun of the Spanish word for city, and I like puns or dad jokes, yeah, for some reason I chose the channel being CIUDad. And even though CIUDad is probably technically how I named it, CIUDad just rolls off the tongue so much easier. So yeah. And then he has another question, which is also KOTOR 1 or KOTOR 2. So I briefly talked about this in my top 10 Star Wars games video I made years ago. KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 are pretty much on the same level for me. However, I genuinely think KOTOR 2 is the better game. And I've never played it with like the restored content. I think as it is still a better game than KOTOR 1. But look, KOTOR 1 I think has the better story. It's a lot more concise. The characters are far more memorable as far as I remember each and every member of my party, except for one, and it's like iconic. However, with KOTOR 2, there's just so many little things that I like more. Obviously, a lot of the kind of the best companions end up coming back because you still have like HK-47. I think characters like Atten have so much personality and so much backstory, and the fact that you can interact with your companions a lot more. There's a lot more like alternate companions you can get depending on if you're going light side, dark side, male, female. You can influence your companions' morality, like they might start light side, but if you go for a dark side playthrough, you influence them enough, they'll turn to the dark side. And then obviously like Kreia is a phenomenal villain. But even like the things like how the upgrade system from KOTOR 1 is far more prevalent and you use it for more things. The fact that the Jedi robes actually look like Jedi robes. The fact that, I don't know, I feel like the setting of the galaxy in KOTOR 2 is also more interesting. And again, just base KOTOR 2. I know there's the restoration mod. I've never played it, largely because I think a lot of the things that were cut needed to be cut. Obviously, I'd love to see maybe some more of the ending come back, but like that cut planet, the droid planet, everything I've seen of it, it looks like it was a real pace killer, and I'm glad it's gone. So yeah, while I think like KOTOR 1's always going to hold a special place in my heart because obviously like, you know, the Revan story, the characters, like obviously you can't forget Bastila, Karth, Canderous, but I think like as a game, KOTOR 2 is better, and the only reason I don't go back to KOTOR 2 more than I do is because that introduction on the mining facility is god-awful. It is so long to get through. It is a slog. It is a pace killer. And for being the very first place you go to, it's not a good thing. But yeah, KOTOR 2, and maybe I'll play KOTOR 2 after I finish the first game. Oh, I just realized I completely skipped over part of Schwabmob's question. He also said, what is your favorite video series you made for the channel? This seems like a good question to end it on, actually. My favorite video or my favorite series, I don't know if like the series I've done, probably the Lord of the Rings Conquest, but like for my all-time favorite video, the video I had the most fun making. Because here's the thing, I can make videos, I could be super proud of a video, that doesn't mean it was fun to make. Pretty much like all of my long-form videos, like the 2-3 hour plus video game analysis videos, I'm proud of those. They were miserable to put together. But probably there's two videos that stand out as being the most fun to make I ever did. The first one was, which US president is the most cracked at Fortnite? This is an old video, I probably need to remake it, but my brother and I, because we play Fortnite together all the time, and we thought it would be funny one day to think of what US president would be the best at Fortnite. And then I decided to make a video out of that. That was a lot of fun to put together. But the number one video that I enjoyed making more than anything else, I wouldn't say it's my best video, but I think it's one of my better ones, and I just had so much fun with it, and I'd love to do it again. It's just I did do it fairly recently, and that is, does Mountain Dew make you better at Halo? This is a video, like I've had this idea for years, and I was shocked, like I could never find any videos like it, and I just thought, you know, Mountain Dew, Halo, what if we ran like a mock science experiment to see if it actually helps you? Because you know the whole Gamer Fuel, Mountain Dew Doritos playing Halo, I don't know. So I made that video and I tested on like several different types of Mountain Dews, which meant like several days of me just drinking a ton of Mountain Dew and trying to load in the different Halo games. And oh my gosh, I was up so late recording some of those and to have this Mountain Dew running through my system. I slept terribly, I felt terrible. Like I drink a lot of soda normally, it's not really healthy, but I drank like way too much because I was like having an entire bottle of Mountain Dew while playing these games. So I would say go check that one out if you haven't seen it. I think it's a lot of fun. Again, it's a video I would end up doing again, remaking one day, but I probably would do the Presidents in Fortnite one first. But yeah, that's probably my favorite video I have ever made. And with that, we have answered all of the questions that you guys have asked me today. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing this. Maybe I could do like some more Q&As from time to time, but obviously that depends on whether or not you guys can come up with questions and stuff. And obviously doing it all the time maybe is not the best thing. But yeah, thank you guys for this. Thank you for watching the videos, for subscribing, for sticking with me as long as a lot of y'all have. It really is an honor. It really is. I'm just so grateful for it. Thank you guys so much. So yeah, before you guys go, obviously I'll probably try and link some videos like around me where you can click on them. I'll have some playlists in the description below of some of my favorite videos, or maybe some older stuff that I think is good. Obviously, like my really old videos are just so... they're very poorly made, and while I feel a lot of nostalgia for them, and I think most of them are fine, they're good, they're just not like nearly the quality that we have nowadays. So if you want to watch some old school CIUDad, there you go. But anyways, don't forget to vote on what game you want to see me play next. Again, that's going to be in my community tab. It might show up somewhere like kind of right below me. Sometimes those a YouTube post will kind of pop up while you're watching the video, like whenever you're scrolling through your recommended. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.